Good evening and a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us on yet another episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show. My name is Tonchi Prusak, and joining me is, as he does week in, week out, Josip Žilić. Gospodine Žiliću, how are you? Good evening to you.
Good evening, Tonchi, and just snuck in, mate. Few delays in Melbourne to get back into the Gold Coast, but I thought maybe there'll be a challenge there. But credit to the pilot, slipped him a 50 and he got me here on time.
Yeah, now we've got a little bit of a funny graphic. Says that you're the guest, but you're not the guest, you're the co-host. So let's correct that straight away. It's almost like a guest. You're coming home to be a guest up in Queensland, mate. We have got a massive show to get through tonight. We're not going to have any guests tonight. We had someone that sort of fell through last minute, unfortunately, but nonetheless, we have got a chock-a-block episode. We've got lots to cover locally. We've got a hell of a lot to cover overseas with the new Hrvatska Nogometna Liga HNL season kicking off this weekend and officially kicked off last weekend with the Super Cup. We'll talk more about that. But, mate, as we speak, there's a big game happening in Sydney. In rain-affected Sydney, did you catch any of the showers going through Sydney on your way up to Gold Coast?
It was bumpy around the halfway mark, so probably that was it.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised, but maybe the supporters just egging on Sydney United. It's 27 minutes in, Sydney Olympic 0, Sydney United 0.
So progress score there. We'll be giving you progress scores throughout the evening. A New South Wales NPL catch-up game being played at Belmore Oval. And looking at the stream, it is just, very, very wet conditions. But, ground seems to be holding pretty well. And we'll be talking a lot about what's happening around the country. It is episode 24. Now, before we move on, by the way, look at these tops. Look at those tops. Sviznaju Anemaju Pojma. They are looking absolutely resplendent. And if you're interested in getting for yourself the Sviznaju Anemaju Pojma, drop us a line, maybe in the chat, send us a private message, or even send us definitely an email. Why not? We'd love to hear from you. Speaking of our email, if your club would like to sponsor an upcoming episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show, contact us now by emailing ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com, or you can call us 0402 012 716. And and mate, if you're keen on getting one of these fantastic tops, look at that, Svizno Anemaju Pojma. Well, we might even have to place in an order.
Just on that sponsorship, don't you? I think it's important that we just stop and reflect a little bit there and recognise some of the sponsors that have come our way over the journey so far, like Macron, Sports Portal Agia, Slavicek Architecture, Oz Cro Imports, my business insurance, or your business insurance, sorry.
Your business insurance,
yeah.
Domovina Imports, we said that. We did say that, didn't we?
Pleme, the app.
Pleme, the ad, how can we forget Pleme, the ad? And they have got something very exciting lined up in August this year, so stay tuned to the
lead up to the World Cup, though, no doubt.
Yeah, I dare say, have we missed anyone else? Yeah, that's been
Yep. And the series of clubs that have been kind enough to sponsor shows as well. We've had clubs like St Albans Saints, Western Knights. We've had Herstal Zagreb, Gold Coast Knights early on. There's been a series of others as well. So we've got to make mention to Wednesday nights who are out there preparing themselves for a tournament. For the tournament coming up, Tonchi, in September, October. The lads too have also given us a bit of support. So, look, in order to put these things together, we do need the support of our community and and the sponsors around there too. So, if you are running a small business, or if your club wants to have a profile done on them, reach out to us and we'll make it work for you.
I will actually go through the list of clubs that have supported us. Gorspic Bears kicked it off in episode 1. Then we had the O'Connor Knights, the Gold Coast Knights, Zagreb Hurstville, St Albans Dynamo on 2 occasions. They actually sponsored 2 episodes. Good on Dynamo. Strathmore Split from Melbourne. Newcastle Croatia, who are just having a fantastic debut year. And I saw somewhere where they've just hit something like 1,100 Facebook followers or something like that. They are just having a fantastic year. We had the Western Knights, Wednesday nights, as you mentioned before as well. And as far as our businesses as well, we also had a contra deal, a giveaway, if you like, by Julius Maynell Coffee
Julius
as well.
Maynell. Yes, and whilst I was in Geelong, Tonch, I made sure I ran away with the supply as well. So.
As you do.
I'm just wondering whether Josip has video footage of me in his warehouse, but look, I'll leave that up to him.
So we are seeking sponsors, and if your club would like to sponsor an episode of the Oz Cro Soccer Show and be featured in our Club in Focus segment, if your business would like to jump on board and advertise in our weekly show, or simply you'd just like to become a member of the show and help us achieve what we are trying to do, or even if you just want to send a kind-hearted donation our way, we're not going to say no. Email us there at ozcrosoccershow@gmail.com. And we'll be in touch with you. So on that note, we're going to take a very, very, very quick break. And here's one of our business partners, Slavicek Studio Architects. When we return, it's part 1 of the Australian Croatian scene. Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show, and it is time, Josipe, for the Australian Croatian scene. What's happening around the country?
It sure is, episode 24, and there's been a hell of a lot of rain on the eastern seaboard, and it has affected a lot of clubs out there. We'll start ourselves over in the nation's capital in Canberra, and the Canberra Croatia men, they had a bye last week, sitting nicely on top of the ladder, nice and comfortable, and they've got a bit of a gap there too. They got the unenviable task of facing O'Connor Knights in the Crow Derby this week, Tonchi.
Oh, wow.
And I say the unenviable task because O'Connor Knights comes at them with a bit of form, which we'll jump into shortly. But look, they got the visit over to O'Connor's home ground. So it's O'Connor's first chance to host the derby this year. So we do expect their faithful, as well as the Canberra Croatia faithful, to come out in big numbers. And just if it's anything like last time, it's going to be a fantastic match and a terrific atmosphere. So well done to both clubs. I'm sure they're going to be putting on a fantastic affair. In that, the Canberra Croatian women's team, they too had a bye last week. Their next round is on 17th of July. They take on West Canberra Wanderers. They remain on top, nice and comfortable there. O'Connor men, Monday night they took on West Canberra Wanderers in that catch-up game. Come out with the goods, 4-1, I think it was, at the top of my head now. Didn't manage to record that in my notes here, but now they've solidified 4th position, and they can start looking at a charge up the ladder from there. And the top 4 is where they're going to the finals playoffs over there. So with Canberra, Croatia coming to visit them, like I said, it's going to be a fantastic affair. The women's team at O'Connor, they had no match, but this week they take on Bell North and need to win to maintain their second spot, don't you?
Excellent stuff there. That is good to know that there is like some good teams, like the women definitely doing well and remaining on top. Let's maintain that. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's just great to see both men's and women's top teams. I know there's a raft of other teams that play for Canberra, Croatia, and O'Connor Knights in different tiers and whatnot, masters and things like that. But when you look at their highest representation across their men and their women, they're sitting in top 4 positions, and it's a great spot to be in.
Moving along.
Over to New South Wales, mate. Newcastle still recovering from a lot of water damage and flooding around the area. They did try and schedule a game for this Friday, but ground inspections just weren't going to have it, mate. So unfortunately, they will have to sit back again this weekend, unless by the grace of God, some sort of rays of sunshine can dry things up pretty quickly. But they'll have to be in a series of catch-up games, no doubt, between now and the end of the season. Both their Div 3 guys and their all-age guys. So that's back on the back burner. We'll revisit their next challenge in next week's episode. But I hope everyone in Newcastle is okay and the damage isn't great and you're able to bounce back up. We saw the footage last week of Canberra, Croatia's club rooms where the bowling greens were inundated with water.
Yeah, yep.
I know the guys were working hard to recover the situation there. So I hope everyone's getting a chance to have a good night's rest after all the work they've been doing. Dallies, Sydney Willoughby Dallies, otherwise known as Sydney Dalmatia. No game last week. This week, the table-topping Dalmatia faced sixth place West Pymble in the North Sydney Football Association League. South Coast United, otherwise known as Wollongong, Croatia, went down 1-0 to Bulli last game. They got the fortune of having the synthetic surface there, so that does help them out a lot. This week they take on Corrimal Rangers, and strangely enough, with all the deferments, they can still climb out of the relegation zone. South Coast United, if they can get a couple of games on the trot, they can sneak themselves up to third last and get away from that relegation area. And they will have a series of games in hand to play. So with all the water issues that they've been having with rain over there. So let's wish them the best this week against Corrimal, and hopefully the start of better things to come their way form-wise.
Gosh, I really feel for the New South Welsh clubs, whether it's Newcastle, Croatia, whether it's South Coast United, the Sydney clubs. They've all just been battered, and indeed Gold Coast Knights as well. But they've just been absolutely battered in recent times. I think by the crazy weather that we seem to be having up there in Sydney. There's still a progress score. We've got a progress score. It's still 0-0. I think it's gone something like 38 minutes or something like that. So still 0-0 at Belmore there, speaking of the wet. But at least, as you said, they've got a synthetic pitch and they're able to play. So to here at Ian McLennan Park. Moving along to Hurstville Zagreb, mate.
Hurstville, they returned to winning form. 2-1 win over Prospect United this week. So the 5th place Hurstville this week take on 7th place South Coast Flames. And there's a series of scores from their club over the weekend. So good to see them back in winning form. They had it since that game against City United. They have kind of been a bit patchy. And I know that they had a goalkeeper absence as well. So it looks like they're back on track. So good to see. Sydney United, as we know, they're currently 0-0 with Sydney Olympic. They had a 1-0 narrow loss to crosstown rivals Marconi on the weekend, coming off that big 3-2 win against the old foe Bonnyrigg, you would imagine that the energy would have been sapped, and the boys they had to dig deep for that game, really, really deep. Look, no excuse about the 1-0 loss to the crosstown rivals in Marconi, but let's not despair. They're in 8th position and they have rescued their situation from where they were a few weeks back. So well done to Miro Vlastelica and the mission that he's on there. Just looking at the scores quickly before we let Sydney United go, they are still 0-0 on the 40th minute. The women's team, otherwise known as in Denzel Park, they have a game against Narellan this week. We'll fly up to sunnier side. We'll go to Queensland, mate.
Yes, and what is happening there? Shall we go firstly to the Gold Coast Knights?
Yeah.
You've missed the Gold Coast quite a fair bit.
I have, mate. I have.
What's the weather like now tonight when you've got there home? Has it been
Nice,
not?
nice, mild, 14 degrees overnight, so it's good, mate. Not complaining at all. Look, Gold Coast Knights had a resounding 5-1 win over their bogey team, Sunshine Coast Wanderers. You know, in the past they've had sort of unfortunate draws against them, so this time to see them convincingly get over the top, great to see. They remain in fourth spot, and then on Tuesday, they were supposed to play on Tuesday night against Brisbane Royal Youth. The rain came down on Tuesday night, and because the grounds have already got an element of water saturation, that had to get cooled off. So that's going to be another reschedule for them. So they do remain that fourth position, and this weekend they take on Moreton Bay. And if the right results go their way, they could propel themselves up into third position. The local FQPL 4 side had a massive 3-3 draw against Pacific Pines. The boys in the fourth tier, they are fifth on the ladder, and Saturday they're home to Legends. So good luck to the guys there.
Is that the name of the club, Legends? Just simply Legends.
Just Legends, mate. Yeah, that's it.
A legendary name.
Yeah. What are you, mate? I'm a legend. Over to Brisbane, mate.
Brisbane, I was going to say. Brisbane, Croatia, or Brisbane Knights. Another high-scoring affair there.
High-scoring affair, another 3-3 draw. They pushed the fourth place Redcliffe to a 3-3 draw, and as a result of the other outcomes in that league, Brisbane Knights ended up climbing to fifth from seventh. And this week, it's another bit of a congestion affair. They take on North Pine, who sit in third. So with the right result, they'll get themselves up to fourth. So good work there, Brisbane Knights.
That's another club that's been really affected by the rains, by the floods earlier in the year. So it's fantastic to see themselves picking themselves up, and indeed the Brisbane Croatian club as well. Really suffered a lot early in the year.
That flood earlier in the year was massive. That was up in the second tier in the middle of the window. So yeah,
biblical proportions.
Indeed, yeah. The women's team match got postponed last week, and they take on fourth placed Oxley this week to try and maintain their second position on the ladder. We'll get ourselves a red eye, and we'll fly all the way over to the west, mate. Western Knights. They had themselves a handy 1-0 win over Murdoch Uni this week, which is just a remedy ahead of their clash with their old foe, Dianella White Eagles, at home this week. Back in second spot and with a game in hand, which if won, they'll get 1 point behind the league leaders, Olympic. So get out there, Western Knights supporters. Make sure you get right behind the club and give the White Eagles a nice welcome.
Absolutely. Now on their far left-hand side there, we've got arguably the world's greatest female footballer, and Sam Kerr. This week she received the keys to the city of Perth, but more importantly, she's there pictured with a Western Knights scarf.
North Perth, Croatia, however you want to call it.
North Perth, Croatia, yeah.
In her reception, she had a sort of her biography read out, where she's played and where she's come from, and she was nice enough to acknowledge where her junior roots came from and where it all began for her, and then Western Knights being her home club, and she took time out to meet up with some of the fans there. Out on the street, there was a range of fans, but I think I like that pick the best because it depicts this young lady's probably looking for her opportunity one day, maybe to be the next Sam Kerr. So, good on Sam for taking the time out with the fans.
Well done. Over to Buildup, Croatia.
Croatia. Another narrow loss, mate. They're sort of making the habit of these. They're scoring. They're putting the ball in the back of the net, but they're copying it. They are. Harder the other way. So 3-2 down to Inglewood. Unfortunately, it's the gap's starting to get even wider now. It's 10 points between them and Coburn. And this week they take on top team Florida Athena. So they're going to really have to find something if they're going to get out of this situation. The women's team, they went down 3-0 to Sorrento away. The 7th place Buildup Women's, they take on 6th place Perth AFC. So there's an opportunity for them to swap positions with Perth AFC if they get the right result.
And before we move on, there's a quiz night coming up for Buildup Croatia. Yeah. That's on Saturday, 30th of July. All the details are there, $25 each, maximum 10 people per table. Snacks provided, prizes for the winners. and for bookings, it's essential. You got to contact Laura
Laura
on
Denona.
04179814. I think it's, I can't read that. Is it 6282 or something like that?
That's right. Go to the Guelph Croatia Facebook site. You'll get all the
That's
details.
Exactly right. Yeah, very hard to read that sort of blue writing against the black back there. At least, good. Notice there the under 20s won, so they narrowly won. So some hopefully
under
some
20s have actually had they've had a good year. Under 20s, they're performing solidly.
And before we now take a break, let's go over to Adelaide.
Yes, Adelaide, Croatia. A tense affair versus Eastern United, and they came over 1-0 winners. It's good to see them getting a couple of wins on the trot now. The other way, Tonchi. You've got Western Australia up, mate.
Oh, have I? Wrong one. My apologies. I am too.
1-0 winners over Eastern United, and they bridged the gap in fourth spot to only 3 points. So they can try and bridge that gap even further when they take on 7th place Fulham this week. And with the right result, they can get themselves into 4th. The women's team continue to have losing ways. 3-0 loss to Croydon, and no gain this week. So an opportunity for them to regroup and refocus as well. Vukovi 4A had a huge loss, 9-2. However, 4B managed to have a lesser loss, 1-0 to Lions. And that, my friend, is the halftime of the Oz Cro wrap.
It is. Now, last week we had Ian Krivicic, the president of Adelaide Raiders Croatia, talk to us a bit about his club. If you've missed that episode, go to our YouTube channel. You can watch the full replay of last week's show and indeed the interview with Ian Krivicic. But whilst we're on the subject of Adelaide Croatia Raiders, they have got their 70th anniversary gala ball happening early in August, Saturday the 6th of August, in fact, to be precise. That's going to be at the Adelaide Convention Centre, featuring popular Melbourne Croatian band Major Minor, and that is to celebrate their 70th anniversary. The oldest Croatian club in Australia, or the oldest Croatian soccer club in Australia, they'll be having a big celebration. Yeah. We might take a break, Josip. We're going to have a very, very quick commercial break. When we return, we're going to be covering the HNL scene, and then we're going to take another little break after that, and then we'll cover the second part of the Australian Croatian scene. So much to get through tonight, folks. Don't go away. It's episode 24 of the Oz Cro Soccer Show. Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show, episode 24. And we're going to now cover the Croatian scene. But Josip, before we do that, we're going to have a big, big prize coming up very, very shortly by the Croatian socialite's very own Susie Grlic, I believe.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
So, Susie, thank you. She's reached out to us and offered these wonderful boards, serving boards or wooden cutting boards. You often use them for your meza, you put out for your guests. As you can see, there's one there with the Dinamo Babu Boys logo, and then there's one there with the Hajduk Split Torcida logo as well. So Susie's kindly donated that for us, and we'd like to offer that to our viewers and our faithful fans. And when the round comes up for Dinamo and Hajduk in round 5, I think it is, Tonch.
Round 5, yep.
We'll have a contest ready to go, but there's a bit of a tease for our viewers and our fans to get their head around. So when that show comes up, look up on the calendar when round 5 is for the HNL. and that show before the round 5 will have a contest for our fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, speaking of the HNL, it all started last weekend with the Super Cup. Often, well, I guess the English would call it the Charity Shield or thereabouts, whatever. But in Croatia, no, it's called the Super Cup and the Super Sport Super Cup because Super Sport is now is sponsoring the Super. I know how ironic, probably the most overused Croatian word super, even though it's not a Croatian word. But they are the major sponsors of the Croatian soccer league this year, or the Croatian football league. It kicked off in front of 16,000 fans at the Maksimir Stadium. If you've just come down in the last shower, well, the scores were 0-0 after extra time. Went down to penalties. 4-1, Dinamo ended up winning. Fantastic result for the Modri, but they didn't have it all their way, and it just augurs well for a very, very competitive HNL League season this year. But the man of the match, without a shadow of a doubt, was in fact the Hajduk goalkeeper. I mean, it possibly could have been anywhere like 5-0, 6-0, if not for the octopus-like tentacles of Lovre Kalinic. His saves were unbelievable. And look, jump on YouTube and see some of the point-blank saves. I think he actually did a Scott Sterling, and he actually saved it with his face. Now, there was one where it was like point-blank. He was right there. I can't remember who the player was. It might have been Petkovic. No, it wasn't Petkovic. I think it could have been... I have no idea, actually. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. But it was from point-blank range within a metre, 2 metres, whatever.
Yeah.
Shot came straight at his nose, and he's got a biggish nose as it is, He probably...
They were just trying to flatten that out for him.
Yeah, that's probably the case. But, yeah, he is running into ridiculously super form. Now, obviously, Hajduk has bought out his contract from Aston Villa, signed him up, and he's now fully a Hajduk player until, I think it's 2025. And one of the reasons why Kalinic did come back to the HNL in the first case is he wants to recapture the form that once upon a time saw him included in the Croatian national team. With his exploits on last Saturday morning or Sunday night or whatever it was, it was it was Saturday night their time, Sunday morning our time.
Yeah.
It was a damn good performance, and certainly Zlatko Dalic, I'm sure, will be taking note. But look,
he had Livakovic on the other side too, so you had Dalic would have been had lots to consider.
Yeah, as we said, 16,000 fans, including 2,000 Torcida fans from Split. 500 of them even travelled up by train, the Bili Vlak, as they call it. It hasn't been done for a long time, and most importantly, incident-free. There was, 20, 30 people arrested during the game, whatever, and that's probably a very, very small figure. Probably drunk and disorderly, I'd say, but what do you do there? But interesting stuff. For Dinamo Zagreb, they had the debut of Josip Drmic, who last year played for NK Rijeka. He's going to form a potent forward line up there for Dinamo Zagreb. And a fluffy head fella called Robert Ljubicic, who's come from you can actually see him there behind the cup.
Luis Diaz.
Yeah.
Not Luis Diaz. What's his name? David Luiz.
Yeah. He's got a very fluffy head, sort of a defensive midfielder kind of player. He was quite prominent. Robert Ljubicic.
How big's that trophy, mate?
Oh, it's huge. Let's pop it back on. It's massive, isn't it? Look,
it's almost as big as Livakovic.
Can hardly see him there. For Hajduk Split, the only real recruit, if you like, stopper Toni Borevkovic. He played. Now, he's a tall fella. He's about 1.95 m or something along those lines. He had a fairly solid, I guess, debut for Hajduk. But the problem with Hajduk is they've lost two key players. Nikola Kalinic, he's got a foot injury, and Marco Fossati, the Italian central defender, central defensive midfielder, CDM, if you like. Both of those look like they'll be on the sidelines for about 4 to 5 weeks. Kalinic probably 3, for Sati more like 4. So they will be missing some of those first games that Hajduk plays in the what do they call it now? They're calling it the Conferencijska Liga, the UEFA Conference League. So they will be playing that very, very shortly, I think in a couple of weeks' time. So that's
Dinamo next week does the Champions League, don't they?
They do. Yeah. So they've pulled out some. I'll try and find the graphic for that if I can find them. Actually, they've got the. There we go. They've got the pretkolo, as they call it, the drugo pretkolo, so the second qualifying round of the UEFA Champions League. They've pulled out Macedonian side Shkupi. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Shkupi or something like that. Goce Sedlowski, the former Dinamo Zagreb legend, the centre-back, he coaches this team. They'll be playing next Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, our time, with the return leg in Skopje a week later. And dare I say, probably the stadium in Skopje is better than the stadium in Maksimir, unfortunately. But that's probably the case. Back to the HNL, and we're talking about injuries. Now, Rijeka, because of their game in Europe. Now, have a look at that photo. This is the Armada, the Rijeka supporters. They're very excited about going to Europe and playing in Europe.
We are coming.
Europe, we are coming. So they will be making their debut in the third qualifying round the first qualifying round of the what's it called, the Conference League. I've got to get it right. Unfortunately, they're going to have
a conference.
Yeah, and as a result, they've actually asked for their round 2 encounter with Hajduk Split to be deferred, so they can do that. They can do that. So already we've got our first deferred game of the season. So round 2, when Hajduk are supposed to take on Rijeka at home, that would have been Hajduk's first home game of the season. That has been postponed. So a round 2 fixture there has been postponed, though. So what a bugger. Now, the fella on the right, returnee, if you like, former Vatreni, former Croatian national team member, defender Matej Mitrovic. Well, he's already injured himself, and he's going to be out for a while. So a bugger. That's not what you want, but that's unfortunately the I guess what happens when the rigors of a harsh pre-season ends up in something like that. Now, right. Josipe, I think we've got a second favourite team in the Croatian league. Gorica. NK Gorica, because they are now, they have got an Australian Croatian player. In fact, now they've got 2 Australian Croatian players within their ranks. Deni Juric, the brother of Tommy Juric, who recently signed for Melbourne Victory. Deni has been loaned from Dinamo Zagreb in the hope of getting more minutes, in the hope of getting more opportunity. I know he was on the bench of the Super Cup, but he didn't see any action. What do you think? Is this a good decision by Deni Juric to move cross town to Velika Gorica?
Why not? You look at the opportunities that have come Anthony Kalik's way. And he had a good year, he had a breakout year, if anything. So they can team up well, and then he can put on his wares to state a claim for better opportunities going his way.
Now, my tip is that Gorica is going to be the dark horse. They're not going to fight for the championship, for the title. They might not even fight for a spot in Europe the following season. But I think they're going to do really well. Samir Toplak is their coach, a wily old veteran who's never really had much resources at his disposal. He comes to Gorica, which is a very well-organised club. They work within their means, and they've just been boosted by a record transfer. Hrvoje Babec has been sold to a Latvian club, Riga. I think they're 3rd in the Latvian league. Now, he's been sold for, it's reported, anywhere between 1 and 1.5 million euros. Now, that is a record amount for an import in the Latvian league. So that money, 1.5 million euros or whatever, that's going to come in handy. But the good thing about Gorica, or the interesting thing is, they've actually signed some sort of a cooperation or working agreement with Fulham in the English. Well,
Oh, really?
what are they in the Premier League? Yeah.
Is there
So
a personnel connection there, or?
I think I'm not sure, but I think there's going to be some sort of like exchange of personnel, saying the forms of coaches, educators, and there's every possibility that could also open up the door to players like Danny Juric or even Anthony Karlik, being Australian citizens as well.
Yeah.
They could get some form of, you never know. Watch that space, but there's interesting times
I
ahead
just
there
wonder,
for
Tonchi,
Gorica.
the fact that the Latvians have come in for a transfer is the sanctioning and the closed doors on Russian players and Russia itself. Do you think it's now going to start to leak into countries like Croatia, Czech Republic,
Yeah,
Slovakia, Hungary? Those players may be looked upon a bit more favourably.
that'll be interesting. That will be really, really interesting. And as you say, I mean, we talk about the Croatian league being sort of, in terms of comparing it to the rest of the leagues in Europe, being sort of a backward league, but it's not so much the case. But the Latvian league, we don't really know too much about it.
No.
But obviously, they've started forking out money, as you say, for Croatian players. And look, Hrvoje Babec, to be honest, I don't really know much about him. I haven't heard much about him, but it's good to see these middle of the road Croatian clubs able to get money. And this always comes back down to, imagine we had a domestic transfer system, a proper domestic transfer system here in Australia, what we could achieve. Amazing, what we could achieve. Now, moving along, podcast to our fellow podcasters. Last year on Hrvatska nogometna televizija, HNTV, one of the most popular podcasts was one called Utakmicu po utakmicu, game by game. They've resurfaced, if you like, on goal.hr, goal.hr. That is Nova TV's sports channel or sports webcast or whatever you want to call it. So for those fans that love the Croatian league and can understand Croatian, Utakmicu po utakmicu is the name of that podcast, and it is certainly worth taking. It's a really, really entertaining look at the Croatian scene, and quite entertaining as well. Speaking of entertaining, the oldest man, and I had to put this in because he's flying the flag for us oldies, Ivan Krstanovic, 39 years of age. He has signed a 1-year contract extension at Slaven Belupo, and the guy has he's third on the all-time list of goal scorers, and with 118 goals in the HNL. Originally from Tomislavgrad, mate. This guy is 6'5". He's a striker.
They make him tough out there, Tonchi.
They do, mate. They do. And he's played at NK Zagreb, Dinamo, NK Rijeka, NK Zadar, Lokomotiva, and since 2019, he's been on the books of Slaven Belupo. He's played 100 games, more than any other club he's played at, and he scored 37 goals. But 118 goals. He's third on the list of all-time goal scorers,
Keeps
which
delivering.
is, he is, and it'll be just great to see if he can continue that this year. That pretty much wraps everything up, except for if I can find it now, is Zrinski. Zrinski played on the weekend.
They played the other night, last night.
Yesterday, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, yesterday. They unfortunately went down to Sheriff 1-0 at home, which takes them out of the Europa League. The Champions League contention. So,
Champions League.
Yeah.
So they'll now drop to the Conferencijska Liga or the Europa League or whatever you want to call it.
They'll go to Europa first. Yeah.
It was an own goal. Igor Savic was the unfortunate player. So, look, they did well. 0-0 in the first game. The first game was, in fact, in Mostar. Second game, so this return leg was in Moldova. And a 1-0 away loss, but geez, they put in a really, really good performance.
Don't forget, Sheriff is aren't they the club that scared Real Madrid in the Champions League?
Right. That's right. Absolutely.
So no easy beats.
They're no easy beats by any stretch of the imagination. Absolutely. Have we got a progress score with the game up in Sydney? I think it might be just second half just starting.
Yeah, it's early minutes in, 50 minutes, 0-0, mate.
All right, so there it's 0-0. The second half has just started in that New South Wales NPL catch-up game between Sydney Olympic and Sydney United. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we return, Josipa, it's part 2 of the Australian Croatian scene. Once again, lots to get through that one. Don't go away, folks.
Cro Imports brings you the finest taste of Croatian beer, spirits and wine. Let your taste buds feel the years of nurtured produce and years of experience in producing some of the best beer and wines from Croatia. Established over 10 years ago and importing various wines, spirits and beers from Croatia, we stock the following products: Osječko pivo, Staro Češko and Velebitsko beers, all naturally crafted brews. We carry a wide range of shortcut spirits, which is renowned for top quality and has won numerous awards for its traditionally produced spirits. Some of these include Šljiva, Biljamovka, Kajsije, Višnja, Orahovac and Medovača. We also have wines ranging from the Ilok region in Slavonia, Belje wines from the Danube region, Malvazija from Istra, and the Palihnic branded Plavac Mali and Poship wines from the Dalmatian coast. Our mission is simple: to ensure that quality, unique and reasonably priced Croatian goods can be enjoyed right here in Australia. We also cater for special gift packs for customers, be they birthdays, christenings, weddings, etc. It's easy to order online, or you can telephone us to arrange a special package. Visit our website at www.ozcro.com.au, like our Facebook page Oz Cro Imports, or you can contact us by calling 0419 44 55 18 or email sales@ozcro.com.au.
Welcome back to the Oz Cro Soccer Show, episode 24. Now, Josipa, before we get into part 2 of the Australian Croatian scene, we just quickly forgot to go through the round 1 fixtures, the opening round fixtures of the Croatian League. It all kicks off Saturday morning our time at 4 o'clock. Dinamo Zagreb taking on Lokomotiva in the big Zagreb derby. That's at the Maksimir Stadium. Then 2 big games on the Sunday morning, or our Sunday morning here in Australia. Osijek at home to Gorica. That should be a real good game.
That's the one I'd be looking forward to. Yeah, that one.
Absolutely. I think that's a pick of the opening round. That's for sure. The Osijek have sort of flown under the radar. They've had 6 practice games in the pre-season and they have won 6 matches. That has been a long, long time since something like that has happened. Yes, sure, you can't look too much into read too much into the practice games and things like that. But at 3 a.m. Sunday morning, we'll find out just how good their preseason was when they take on Gorica. At 5 o'clock Sunday morning, Šibenik are at home to Rijeka. Šibenik has had a lot of players coming and going at the Šubićevac Stadium. So too has Rijeka. Rijeka's lost a lot of players, so it'll be interesting to see how those 2 teams fare. And then the wee hours of Monday morning at 3 o'clock, the newly promoted Varaždin take on Slaven Belupo in the Northern Croatian derby. And then Istra are at home to Hajduk Split at 5 a.m. Monday morning in Pula. So that should be another good game. Great opening round of the Croatian.
Will continue that sort of thorn in your side attitude, that way they last year. They always found a way every second or third week just to rock the boat.
Yeah. Their best player, Dion Belja or something like that. Ivan Dion Belja or something like that. He's gone back to Osijek. So Osijek has got this potentially very, very lethal attacking lineup. But him departing, Belja departing Istra, that'll be interesting to see how Istra are able to, compensate for that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the Australian Croatian scene, part 2.
Part 2, let's head off to the Apple Isle, mate. Glenorchy men, they had a handy 2-1 win over Olympia. That keeps their second spot, and now they're facing third place Kingborough this week, so that'll be an interesting challenge for them. I know last time they played Kingborough, it resulted in a bit of a dip in form for Glenorchy Knights, so they'll be looking to use this as a platform to build a bit more form and try and take on Devonport in the second half of the year. Their women's championship side had a 4-0 win over South Hobart. Second place Knights have a bye this week. And the Championship 1 women's team, they take on South Hobart this week after their 1-1 draw with Nelson, which keeps them in 7th spot. We'll head over to Victoria. NK Bunker and Vukovar had themselves a derby last week. Vukovar came out with the goods, 4-0, a convincing win for the Sunday League as Premier League. Vukovar with 2 games in hand sit in second, and Bunker sit in third at the moment. Over to Gorspic Division 2 Metro. They went down to top team Newmarket 3-1, dropping from second to fourth. They're home to Newport this week. And the Masters team have a clash with West Point this week after last week's 3-2 loss to Altona Magic, seeing them slip to 5th position now. We'll head over to Strathmore. Strathmore had their match with Sydenham postponed. The bottom place split has 2 games in hand now. If they get the positive results on those games in hand, they can jump out of the relegation zone. And this week they face mid-table Altona City. So based on the form they've been having, this will be a fantastic clash for them. I saw them advertise the game at a new location, I believe in the city of Whittlesea. They found a location where they can play on the synthetic surface because of the situation with their own is going to be resurfaced next year, which they thankfully got a grant for. But they are trying to find solutions for their games, which is keeps them going. So good luck, Split. Their women's team had an ugly 9-0 loss, though. Next week they take on bottom side Latrobe Uni. The Metro 2 guys at Strathmore, they played the old foe Williamstown this week after a washout last weekend. And the Masters in third place had a 2-1 win over Banyule, and this week take on Broadmeadow Stars. Over to the NPL. North Geelong men had a 1-1 draw against Manningham in a lacklustre performance. They did start off with a nice 20-25 minutes. After that, they dropped away and significantly dropped off from their usual performance and were quite wasteful in front of goal. They're forced to pay the price for the dropped effort, though, because Manningham found their way back into the game with a late equaliser. And now the situation where they've got a 3-point gap on second position, a larger difference helps them out too. But now this time of the year, they're playing teams who are scratching for any point they can possibly get. And an old enemy in Werribee coming up the highway. It was somewhat of a derby game. So, yes, it should be a fantastic affair. It won't be an easy affair, that's for sure. So we wish North Geelong men all the best. The women's team, I stepped out and watched this match on the weekend, Touch, with my time in Victoria. And I was inspired.
You must have brought him very good luck, didn't you? The 5-0 win, huh?
It's just what I do, mate. It's just what I do. I was inspired by the team effort, but in particular, I've got to make a special call out to Lara Hedich. She bagged 2 goals. She was battered by her opponents. She was clobbered. She was sliced from behind. She was kicked in the guts. Absolutely everything. And she just keeps getting up off the deck and delivers for her team. So well done, Lara. And the 2 goals were inspirational. In that photo footage you see there that Tonchi's put up, viewers, that's Lara there. She's managed to pull off a scissor kick goal with 3 opponents on her back. So, and then as a result, the person next to her collapsed on her. So,
God!
She winded her. Yeah. So, look, she's a fantastic warrior. She is. So well done, Lara. They head over to this week, taking on Bundoora, and they're keeping the pressure on third spot, Spring Hills, and there's only thing separating them at the moment is goal difference. Dandy City, Tonchi, I believe you got some footage for us too there, mate.
Yes,
but Dandy
we
City,
do.
huge news for the Dandy fans in their fight to survive and try and get into that playoff position. A 2-1 win over Altona Magic, going down early, 1-0. The team found their way forward and managed to get a couple of goals in. This week they take on Port Melbourne in what will be every week for them now, a final game for them. And Port Melbourne's in hot form as well. So when you get a couple of situations like this where Port Melbourne's looking to get further up the ladder, you've got Dandy who are trying to survive. I think there'll be a goal fest, is what I'm tipping.
Yeah, no, it's an important game. Every game is important, but Dandenong City have got a real tough run home. Catch the Football Out West show from last week, where we spoke to Ljuban Palinic as well, and he's completely aware that they've got a real tough trip home. Trip home.
Run home.
Run home.
Yeah, run home. Yeah.
The words wouldn't come home then. And 5 games, all teams in the top 5, so it is going to be tough. But look, they're up for it. They're up for the fight, and we keep on saying it. Wouldn't it be great if all 3 Croatian clubs in the NPL survive? I think Melbourne Knights will. I think St Albans will, and hopefully Dandenong City can as well. And if North Geelong get promoted, we would have 4 teams, 4 Croatian clubs in the top tier competition in Victoria. How good would that be?
It'd be fantastic, mate. And just on that, my son and my oldest son, Carl, and I were driving home from North's game on Saturday night. And we started running it through our heads. So Carl was driving and I pulled out the Football 24 to see who's Dandy playing, who's Hume City playing, and try and check off the probabilities and possibilities.
Yep.
And it comes down to goal difference, mate.
Oh, no way.
So I haven't got anything other than tell the Dandy fans, buckle in. It's going to be a hell of a ride.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, wow. There we go. The Dandenong City scores there, and the women.
Women had an indoor soccer result. They went down 6-3 to the Latrobe United. This week they take on Monash Villarreal. So I wonder if what's his name? Is it Lopetegui? He's a coach from Villarreal. Will he make an appearance from La Liga?
Wonder.
Yeah. Anyway, good luck to Dandy. And we move on to Melbourne Knights. The men's team, they had their game against Green Gully postponed due to waterlogging around the pitch. So they'll have to find a way to get that game underway at some point, probably a midweeker, being that they've both got lit pitches. They can do it any way they want to. This week they head to Eastern Lions. Eastern Lions on their home ground, always a tough customer. Doesn't matter what part of the ladder they're sitting on. So we're wishing the Melbourne Knights men all the best in their contest this week. The Knights women have found a little bit of form in recent weeks, not the series of losses they were having. So they had a win and now a draw, this time against Eltham Redbacks. And Eltham, we know, are a tough competitor in the Victorian Women's Premier League. So well done to the Knights women for accumulating some points now and just starting to get themselves in the right direction. So good to see. Over to St Albans, a last minute goal to Hume probably broke the hearts of Dandy City when they saw that result. Didn't do them any favours. 0-0 was looking good for Dandy, but unfortunately St Albans copped an 87th, 88th minute goal. It's their first loss in 4 or 5 games. Scoring options are at a premium for them at the moment. They just can't seem to get a series of goals or a win for themselves. Their challenge doesn't get any easier, though, as they have to take on Green Gully this Friday night. So I think that'll be the blockbuster this week to keep your eyes on NPL TV. For people like me who are living interstate, but if you're living in Melbourne, get yourself down there and support the boys in blue. The women's team, again, starting to accumulate some points. They had a 2-2 draw against Port Melbourne this week. They're facing table-topping Lara, with whom they had a draw last time. So Lara better watch out because the Dinamo Women's are coming strong at the end this time of the year.
Good stuff, and that brings us to the end of the Oz Cro scene. Now, before we do go on, the NPL Victoria competition isn't the only competition that has 3 Croatian clubs in it. The BiH Premier League as well, and that also kicks off this weekend. That kicks off, obviously a lot of the leagues are kicking off earlier due to the World Cup later this year in Qatar. And the 3 Croatian clubs in the Bosnian-Herzegovinian Premier League, they will be in action. We talked about Zrinski Mostar, who were in action last night or early this morning. They travel away to Tuzla, where they'll be taking on Sloboda Tuzla. That's on Sunday morning, our time at 1 o'clock. Then we've got Široki Brijeg at the same time. They will be they play at Igman.
Promoted team.
Newly promoted side. Yep. And Posuše is the only one of the trio that'll be playing at home. They come up against Velej Mostar at 1:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. So they actually kick off the competition wee hours of Saturday morning. So the first game of round one of the new season. So looking forward to covering that each week. Very, very excited about that. Any progress score from the Sydney United game, Josipe?
The score remains the same, mate. 0-0. That's now 65 minutes gone. But going back to the Bosnian Premier League, there was a game. I got to find you the footage, and we need to share it one week. It was fantastic to see. It was the tail end of the year where I think it was Zrinski taking on FK Sarajevo.
Yeah.
When the anthems came on, instead of singing anthems, they were singing Ranko Boban's song. So it was, and it was louder than the actual PA system.
There you go.
So I've got to find you that footage and
the crowd singing that.
The crowd singing it. Yeah. And the commentator was taken aback. He didn't know what to say.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. It's a colourful league, that is, no doubt. Thank you, folks, for being a part of our show tonight. Go over to npl.tv and catch the last 20 minutes of the Sydney United Sydney Olympic game. I'm sure we're certainly going to do that as well. And for those of you from New South Wales and Queensland, you're probably watching the State of Origin. Hopefully your team has won. We know it's a big thing up north. Next week, there will be no Oz Cro Soccer Show. We're going to be taking, another mid-season break. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. But until then, thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show. Really, really appreciate it. Laku noć, good night, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Laku noć.